This week, obviously, we have one of our all-time guests, Rick Hawn, on. Released by Bellator, finds a home with Titan. I got the sheet from Titan saying that you have a fight coming up, but there's no opponent. Is that still the case?
Yeah, scheduled to fight December 19th here down the road, actually, a few minutes, which would be awesome. But I think they're having trouble finding me an opponent on, 3-4 weeks notice as of now. At least at lightweight, they're having trouble.
There's as of the taping of the interview, we're talking about 18 days away. Most people have a training camp. They know who they're training against. They know who they're fighting for. They have an image in their head. You have people to put in front of you. You don't for this one. How late is too late? 3 days before, 4 days before, before you go, look, I can't. There's no way I can do it now.
I'm training. I've been training since my last fight. A week after that, I was training back in the gym. Obviously, I wasn't turning it up really hard, but when I got the notice that I was cut from Bellator and then re-signed and hopefully potentially fighting on the 19th, I ramped training back up. So if it's as of now, I'm gonna go like I still have an opponent. So hopefully something comes up, something happens.
Is this kind of what you're used to, though? I mean, from all the years in judo, you don't know every guy you're going to compete against. You don't know the bracketing, you don't know the order. Just kind of, you're going to compete on that day. You show up ready to compete, take who they give you. Is that kind of what's happening now, where you're like, I'm ready to compete, I'm just going to take whoever you give me?
Yeah, pretty much. Obviously, it would be nice to have some more preparation time, at least for a specific opponent. But I'm training for whoever. I always work on all of my skills for whatever opponent I have. It's gonna have for me. So I'm always ready.
Let's go back in time a little bit and talk about the Dave Jansen fight, your last fight at Bellator. You lost unanimous decision. What went wrong in that fight, in your opinion?
A lot of things. It was one of those fights. I just wasn't there. I didn't have a great night. I didn't react to what was happening. My corner realized what was going on, and they gave me good advice, but I couldn't, and I heard them. I couldn't turn it up. I couldn't react to it, and I got outpointed. What happened, so I didn't react properly. It's just, I don't know. It's just an off night for me, unfortunately that happens, and it was obviously a pivotal fight in my career. But as as being a competitor yourself, you're not on all the time, and you're actually rarely on, and at your best, I think, when it comes to fight time, a lot of times. So, it's just one of those nights. So, just you learn from it and keep going.
How is your motivation to fight? Like, because you've been competing for a very long time. If you had an all years of judo, most people have a 10-year career at best, and they're done. Like, they might do a little bit of high school, a little bit in college, get a couple years in the pros, and they're done. You've been a high-level athlete for a really long time. Is the motivation still there to get up every morning and go train? And yeah, you're in training, and I know you ramped up when you thought you were going to fight at 19th and all that stuff, but still, is it still the same Rick Hawn from 5 years ago showing up to practice today?
I think so. Obviously, training as you get older, you change the way you train. Now it's more, I have mentally, it's about training specific, about training technique and not beating yourself up so much and not taking the punishment of a 12-week camp, which I could probably do, a few years ago, and
right.
Even more so when I was younger. So, yeah, it's just I have the motivation. I kind of maybe got I plateaued with that maybe a little bit, over the last year and a half or so, but I've kind of got it back. I think with this new organization, I think I've always been focused, always been ready to fight, and always been prepared. But I think having being cut kind of changes things mentally. Maybe I got a little complacent where I was, and a little too laxed. So maybe this is what I really needed to get the fire back, and more so than I had before.
How do you see yourself performing with Titan, and how long do you think you'll stay with Titan? Because everyone knows that Titan's they let you out of your contract if the UFC comes calling. Do you think you'll be in Titan for a long time? Trying to, I hate saying rebuild your career because you just had a couple of losses in a row. It's not like you're on this huge downslide, but like, trying to get yourself into a big organization? Do you see yourself staying with Titan for a long time, or see yourself getting bounced out pretty quickly? Like, how do you see yourself being in let's say, the next 18 months?
I'm just gonna take it one fight at a time as of now. Obviously.
Rick, that's not you. You're not a one fight at a time guy. You've always been a planner. That's why you're an Olympian, because you're a planner.
Yeah.
You don't. You're not a guy that goes, "Oh, I'm taking this one tournament." You've got a plan. You may not want to share it with us, just say, "I don't want to share it." That's fine, but don't sit there and try to tell me, "Hey, I'm taking one fight at a time." That's bullshit. It's not who you are. So a
Right.
lot of fighters out there are exactly like that, but that's not
Yeah.
you.
You're right. You're right. Ultimately, yeah, the UFC is where everyone wants to be and get to. The last 4 years I was with Bellator, that wasn't a realistic option. I kind of got rid of that mentally. I was like, that's never going to happen. Now, obviously, the way Titan has, they have an open door policy with the UFC, which is great. So, and it makes them look good as an organization if they send their fighters to a UFC on a bigger stage. So, I think ultimately that's the goal. Now it's there's potential for that. There's an opening. As before, it was just there's no way that was happening.
Isn't this then getting released by Bellator almost a blessing in disguise? Like, it kind of comes at the right time. You're a little bit older, but you're not ancient. You haven't hit couture age yet. You're not in your 40s still competing. You've got time. You're still strong. You see from the outside, mind you, I'm not with you every day. But on the outside, you look like you're improving every time you're competing. You look like you're motivated to train all the time. You look like that you're present when the fights are happening. So kind of getting released from Bellator right now, isn't it almost like a blessing in disguise? Because you could have 1, 2, 3 fights with Titan, and then all of a sudden get called up and be in the UFC for a period of time and be kind of realistically at your prime, physically and mentally.
Yeah, I think so. At first, I didn't know what to really think about it. I thought it was kind of over. Going back to the local shows, and I was like, that's not where I even want to go. At that point, I think I'd call it quits. But yeah, I think it could be a blessing in disguise. Now that there's actually an option, and there's talk that one day it's after a few wins, of course. And UFC has said that. Obviously they're not going to look at me now. I'm coming off 2 losses. It's going to take several good wins to get their attention, and from there, who knows? Anything's possible.
How's the money going from Bellator over to Titan?
I was in a pretty good contract with Bellator before I got cut. I think that's another reason why they cut me, is because my contract was pretty good, and they're making a room and kind of going different directions with everything, and I don't think they wanted to pay me as much as what my contract was. So that's part of the game.
Yeah.
But with Titan, I'm gonna be. They have a lot of shows. So I'm hopefully get a lot of fights put back to back, and I'll be ready whenever.
You were training at TriStar for a while. You're not in TriStar now. You're back home in Mass. Are you not going to TriStar anymore, or are you just not going right now because there's no reason to go all the way up there?
A little. No, I'm still with TriStar. Yeah, I'm still training there. I'm just, it's kind of hard right now financially, and we have a new house that, I'm trying to stay close, and I'm also teaching MMA here, and I'm working on opening my own school as well. So it's just really hard to get up there right now, and as much as I would like to. But I'm back training with under Mark Delagrati at his gym at Tong.
Yep.
They're close by, and I'm training at Professional Martial Arts Academy, which is up in New Hampshire. So I have good training. I wish TriStar was a little bit closer, but it's still 4.5 hours, which isn't bad, but I just haven't been able to get there recently.
Did you see the interview that they just did with Faraz? We were talking about how JiuJitsu is the worst enemy of a mixed martial arts fighter. Did you see that interview he did a little bit ago?
I saw it posted on my Facebook. I didn't open it to read it yet.
You're a judo guy. I mean, it's obviously St. Gi. Just obviously anybody that understands how martial arts was invented, they basically got tired of being thrown on the ground and wanted to find a way to continue, and then that's how Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu comes apart with from the Gracies, that they just got. We don't want to do the stand up. We want to do the ground game. So let's start this whole new thing. So it's basically just an offset, of judo. It's the Newaza game of judo. You obviously had a great, judo career, all gi. It's what the sport is. Your trainer comes out talking about how gi is like the worst thing for MMA guys. obviously judo is not the same as jiu-jitsu. It's totally different. And I understand his standpoint of like the holding and the gripping and all that, trying to get your spacing in there. Taking judo and jiu-jitsu as two separate entities for what they are now. How do you see gi jiu-jitsu for MMA? Do you see it as a bad transfer into the game, or do you see it as a good transfer into the game?
I think any part of that, doing any of it, is beneficial to a certain degree. At the high level, obviously it's you're not wearing a gi in MMA, and so training it is kind of two different things. And, the holding and the gripping is different. So I think a lot of people have said that it's exactly the same, gi or no gi training, but I think to a certain degree it's definitely not. You with a gi, everything's more tight, you can't escape things. It's a lot harder. And obviously without a gi and MMA, you can slip out of things and get away, and takedowns are different and all that as well with from the standing aspect. So.
Well, just anybody that comes out and says the gripping for gi and no gi is the same is a complete idiot. There's no way that's the same because there's no collar. Automatically, there's no collar. So you should completely change the grip game. There's no sleeve. It's gone. So you're talking about a complete position of where there's no space to do anything like that. So people that come out there and say that kind of stuff they're just idiots. They don't know what they're talking about. For me, I think judo transfers in the mixed martial arts very well. And not because of the grip game, because of the way you have to move your hips. And you learn how to underhook, you learn how to overhook, and then, you can't grip across as easily with you grab the wrist, but you do learn. Like you understand it's the hip motion that works. Where jits doesn't transfer at all, gi to no gi, because with a gi on, everything's slowed down, everything's close, like you said, it's tight, but there's no hip position. There's no changing, in that from that spacing. Like once you're on your back, like it doesn't, it just doesn't transfer at all. So that's my opinion on it. So I kind of understood what Faraz was saying, and I agree with him. But I think judo has to be looked at as a separate entity from that because they are separate sports now. So.
Absolutely. I mean, with no gi, it becomes almost like a version of wrestling. And obviously wrestling, he's a big fan of wrestling, and that's very beneficial for MMA.
Yeah, for sure. Well, man, Rick, it's been great to catch up with you. I'm glad things are going well and that you found a home, at least for a short term. I think it's going to be a short-term ride. I don't see you being there for very long, maybe a year, 18 months. Like I was saying earlier, I think you're going to be there just for a very short time. You get a couple, 3, 4 fights underneath your belt, and you're going to get called up because you're right in that prime, you're right in that space, and you're at a weight class they need people. So it makes sense.
Yeah. Awesome. Thank you.
You got it, but we'll talk to you soon, man. Have a great rest of the day.
You too.